Thanks for joining us for This Week in Odyssey, where subscribers to Odyssey, the print MIS for marketing ideas for printers, can discover what's new in Odyssey and learn about the best practices to use Odyssey to its fullest. Let's get started.
Welcome to Marketing Ideas for Printers, third edition of This Week in Odyssey. We will be presenting these webinars every other Wednesday, which coincides with our Odyssey release notes. And speaking of release notes, in case you happen to miss the last few webinars, we're going to just quick dive in and show you where to find those within Odyssey. So right here, I just have queued up an Odyssey session, and it's simply up here in the upper right under the Help menu. There's a View Odyssey Documentation, and right underneath that is Odyssey Release Notes. So if you select that, that'll take us to one of our KB articles, and you'll be able to check out what's being released in Odyssey every other week. So feel free to have a look at that at your own leisure and check out what's new in Odyssey.
Yeah, and part of what we do on these webinars is we dive in a little bit deeper on some of those new features. And Trish, I know that there are 3 similarly named items that you wanted to dig in. Those are the 3 new features. We're talking about some new resources today. And as you kind of prepare to show those, well, why don't you show it first? I'll have a little editorial afterwards there. So take us through those 3 new resources, please.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. So as part of the release notes of this week, as Dave alluded to, we have 3 new resources, and I'm going to go over all of those 3. So simply you go to the View All Resource main page, and up here in the upper left called Add Resource, we have one that's called Bundling, Time, and Inserting. And so I'm actually going to go to the Time resource first. And this would help you to track those production tasks that might not use any equipment or materials, but they do use time. So this could be like most general labor tasks as an example. So here's where you would simply select, input a description, assign a department, a couple things such as tags, you can easily find it, an hourly rate, and if you have any minimum time in minutes. So I won't go too deep, but again, this resource could be for tracking those tasks that might not use any equipment or materials, but that time resource, which is important to many different printers.
So like a design time, for instance, I think would be a perfect example.
Perfect example.
Design department or proofing time, things like that.
Yep. So that's kind of a high-level overview of the time resource. The next one that I had in my list was bundling. And this could help you to track those bundling tasks like shrink wrapping, banding, and any other tasks that involve bundling several finished products together in flexibly sized groups, we could say. So again, this is under the Add Resource location, and simply choose Bundling. This one has a few more things to add into it. On the left, you have the variables that are affecting your hourly rate, your make ready time, and the bundles per hour. And then you see on the right, you're getting into, okay, what's your maximum weight per bundle that this can hold? How many pieces per bundle? What's the maximum size of that bundle? And a couple other questions. So if you happen to have a bundling task, like I was saying, shrink wrapping or banding or something that includes putting things together in finished products, you might want to check out the bundling resource for these sort of things.
Yeah, I love this one. I remember kind of when we were kind of putting this together early on, this is just another one of those perfect examples where maybe on a, for lack of a better way of saying it, a legacy MIS system, it was just simply a task, and the operator has to say, yeah, it's this, this, or this, and make that decision. Well, it takes maybe just a little bit more to set up something like this, but boy, this is just a perfect example that shows where Odyssey can really kind of put some smarts into it and really take those decision points away from the operators so they can do printing.
Yep, that's a good point. This is a specific resource, so the more specific we can get, we can hone in on those different resources and tasks that your print shop can do. So this is a good example of that. The last new resource that has been added this go around is called the Inserting. So I'll just quick go over what the inserting resources, and that could help you track simply like an inserting task such as envelope stuffing. Think of it like that. So if your print shop stuffs envelopes before they're sent out, this might be the type of resource that you would use for that sort of thing. And again, Odyssey will ask for a description, a department, some hourly rates, and some other variables that you can fill in. I think the important things here again would be your hourly rate, but then pieces per hour. If you have a percentage that needs to decrease the speed per extra piece, again, we would help you enter those, but we can really get specific for you when you're using this insert resource.
Yeah, and what's really neat about these is just really all three of these resources. Trish, you alluded to it already. You used the word specific resources, and it used to be that we would kind of get close to some of these resources. I mean, like really close, like 90% close, but that last 10% of what we needed to put into place wasn't quite readily available like it is now. And so we'd have to kind of get in behind the scenes and manipulate that a bit. And those are what we call custom calculations or custom resources. So what's neat, if we kind of zoom out and kind of look at the big picture of what's happening here, we've always been able to accommodate things like that. But as Odyssey keeps on going in these little 2-week intervals, more of what used to be a custom resource starts to graduate into a specific or general purpose resources, just like we're showing you here. So it's not like there's anything, well, I want to be careful how I say it. I was going to say anything new. There's nothing new because it's still doing the same calculations, but what we used to achieve with custom calculations behind the scenes, now we're getting it that much closer to your fingertips so that you can see it and use it and do what you need to do with it. So these are fun to celebrate.
Excellent comments, Dave. Like you mentioned, we're bridging that gap to give the print shop ability to more easily enter their resources. So thank you for that comment.
No, I was going to say move on to the bug fixes. Did you have something else that you were going to talk about here at this point?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. In addition to some various releases in Odyssey, we have a section about bug fixes. And there was just 3 that I wanted to briefly touch on that I thought might be important. The first one is, for whatever reason, the envelope prices were not coming through if the skid quantity was left 0, and that would be found within your actual envelope resource. And so now we've just updated that on the back end. So now that Odyssey can correctly calculate a price for the envelope. So nothing that a print buyer would need to adjust, but you'll now see the envelope pricing coming through. Another noteworthy bug fix, we were seeing that the send estimate feature was not processing. And again, just to recap where that would be found within any estimate, there's when you're viewing that estimate, there's a send estimate over here on the right, and it appeared that it was Odyssey was locking up. So now that you should now be able to send your estimates without any issues. And the third thing that I think is actually quite important as well is you see this little magnifying glass in the upper right? Well, before you weren't able to type in and search for an estimate. But now that we have fixed this, we're able to put in some numbers, you type in what you need, and you can come up down here under the estimates, and you're able to search for your estimates as well as all the other things that you might have been able to search for. So that's been something that we've added into Odyssey as well with the search functions.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite areas. And just like we were talking, just kind of in preparing for this webinar right before it started, I'm kind of guilty of getting used to that, and I forget to talk about that. So I'm really glad, Trish, that you put that one to the front of the stage today, because it's not just the ability to search for estimates in there. You can put in people's names, orders, whatever it is that you want, and you're going to be able to find stuff. It's just whatever you want to find, and you really don't know how powerful that is until you start using it. That's a big deal, and estimates are, as you said, now part of that as well. One other thing too that I think is worth mentioning too, you mentioned the envelope pricing, and that's a pretty big bug. I'd like to say that we've all moved on to our superhuman capabilities, but every so often there is the chance for us to prove that we still are human too, and that was one of them. Now, we've talked a lot about these 2-week release cycles. That's what these are all about, these webinars, to show you what happens in these 2-week release cycles. However, sometimes something can be so big that we just need to even interrupt that 2-week release cycle. So when there's something big like that pricing isn't just quite what it's supposed to be, that's kind of a stop everything. And that one we just kind of inject that. That's an emergency fix. And that is, for me, that's one of the things I enjoy talking about is the benefits of being in the cloud, which used to not be such a friendly thing to think about all the time. But now it's just kind of normal. Well, that's the benefit of having something like this in the cloud. So if something isn't exactly quite right, boy, we can push the fix out just instantly on the spot. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Dave. Forgot to bring that up, but yes, with that being in the cloud and with us having the ability to push out any critical release, we can get out our updates a little bit faster. So yeah, thank you for those comments. So with that said, and having gone over a little bit of the release notes, I'd like to hand it back over to Dave, and he has a little something to talk about regarding design edit.
All right, super. Grab my screen here. There, I think we go. And so on my screen, we are going to actually use one of our subscribers today. And I think that person is actually in the crowd. Shout out to Derek. Yeah, I see in the list. Derek is in the crowd listening to this webinar, and here he is right here. We actually have him featured on one of our blog pieces. So Derek, thank you for contributing this blog piece. And I would encourage everyone to go ahead and take a look at that. Take a look at our blog, but just this one in particular, just has a really nice bit of information in here. You can get to know a little bit more about Derek. That's at marketingideasforprinters.com/blog. Now that I've got you all introduced to Derek, I'm actually going to introduce you to his website. And here it is, brandywineprinting.com. Just had some fun conversations with Derek, and he's kind of in the early stages of getting going with Odyssey. And there's a lot to do, and we're actually going to do some of that with him in progress. So here's a freebie for you. We're always going to be helpful, of course, but it's kind of fun to do it in real time, and that's what I'm going to show you today. We're going to talk about design edit, which on the surface doesn't sound like Odyssey, perhaps, but keep in mind that design edit is one of the entry points into an order form, and order form is the entry point into Odyssey. So it does connect to Odyssey, and it is my opinion that printers that have Odyssey are going to be taking some big steps forward. But printers that have Odyssey and some of the tools that help you bring in more printing into Odyssey, like design edit, those are the printers that have the big unfair advantage. And so we're going to talk about that a bit today. So first, design edit. It's set up. Let's see. I'm going to go to flyers because I think that one is set up. We're going to set up newsletters in just a moment to connect it to Odyssey. But just so you can see what it looks like, flyers, it looks like this. And I'm just picking one of the thousands of templates that are available. And I am logged in to Derek's website with an account simulating a print buyer. So Derek, once you see that order come through, just know that that's the demo order. And this one's taking a little bit longer to load. Oh, here it comes around the corner. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So this is the WYSIWYG editor. I'm starting to call it the WYSIWYP editor. So what you see is what you print editor. And so if we could follow that through, we would actually create that flyer. Now, if I were to go in the order forms and, go to the newsletters, we would not be able to follow that through to an order form and into Odyssey because that has not been connected yet. So I'm going to cancel where I'm at right here. Go back to the main website. And now I'm going to take the detour and go into Odyssey and show you how this all gets connected. So here is Derek's installation of Odyssey. And what I'm going to look for is I'm going to go to the order forms, and we're going to go into the newsletters, into the newsletters category. Now there's a newsletters order form already there. And matter of fact, I'll just show you well, what that looks like. Now you can see it does not have that design now. That's that design edit tag there, so it does not have that yet. That's what we're going to change. But if we were going to follow that, there's our newsletter order form. That's what this is over here on Odyssey's view. And this green link here, that's what shows that the order form has been connected to Odyssey for pricing. So what we want to do now is say that all of the newsletter templates that are part of Design Edit, we want to make sure that a print buying customer can use those templates and then follow that order into the order form and into Odyssey. And we do that right here by editing the category. And we're going to select Design Edit, and we're going to build a filter. And so what's on the screen here is a list of all of the different templates in Design Edit that are available for assignment. We're interested in the newsletters, so we're going to add that newsletter filter. And now we can start to see a little bit more information about those templates. We know that they're in the newsletters category. We know that they're all 8.5 by 11, and they're all two-sided and 4/4 for ink, and no folding. However, we can add that folding option as part of that order form. You'll see that in a bit too. So we're going to go over on the right side, and we're just going to get rid of these little red triangles by making the connections. So templates from this group, the group of newsletters, will use the order form newsletters. Make sense? Now, if there were multiple order forms within that newsletters category, we could select the ones that we wanted. That means that you could have some newsletters that, newsletter order forms that are maybe more specific purpose that aren't connected to Design Edit, and you could have an order form that is going to be specifically to tied to Design Edit, which is what we're doing here. And depending on how many options are available in that template, we have some more things to map here. In this case, size is the only one that's showing up, and so we're just going to say that all of the sizes, well, we already know they're 8.5, 11 here, so we're going to make sure that matches up with Odyssey as well. So we're just making that connection. Number of sides, colors and sides, we're going to say that for a one-sided, it's going to be full color on the front and unprinted on the back. And if it's two-sided, full color on the front and full color on the back. Now you might be wondering, everything's two-sided here. How come we have to worry about a one-sided? It is possible for your print buyers to go in and just simply delete that second side. Very possible thing to do. And then that last one that I mentioned, that there's no fold designation in here, but that doesn't mean that you can't ask for that. So we're going to go ahead and say, what question are you using for folding? Well, it's the folding options, and then you could have the answers in here. So it's the folding options question, which would normally show up here, but we're just going to say, let's take that question away. Let's let Design Edit answer that and say if they select folding, that can be a trifold or whatever it is that you want. And you can add the helpful text that goes along with that to make more sense of that for your customers. But for our purposes, we want to show how that filter gets built. And that's what we're doing now. So we have added that filter. There it is. We can go back and change it at any time. We'll update where we're at. And now that's connected. So if I go back to Derek's website and look at newsletters, and I'm just going to go ahead and refresh this. I think I'm going to refresh that. Let me try that again here. There's our options. So we can still use this order form exactly as it is. We can go into the document library, but that's outside the scope of what we're talking about. Here's where we want to be. We want to say design online. Let's look at those newsletters. Now it's connected to Design Edit, and now these thousands and thousands of templates are showing up available for use. Let's just grab one. Let's go to, the fitness training newsletter template. I'd like to think that I'm kind of a fit guy, but every time I think that, I look in the mirror and remind myself that that would be a lie. So I'm working on it. Bear with me, I'm working on it.
Dave's always running around being busy with something, so.
Get those calories burned one way or another. That's why we have sit and stand desks here too. It helps with all that up and down. Okay, there we go. There's that picture of someone else. That's not me. So if this is that print buyer, we can go ahead and just start filling in that information. Don't overlook at what's going on here. The print buyer can build their newsletter right on the fly, and that's what's going on. It has all the lorem ipsum type of text. They can just go ahead and do that right on the spot. I accidentally grabbed that character from the previous paragraph, so let me put that color back. And we can just go ahead and keep on filling in that information. We can keep on swapping images. Huge library of images. Pull in some stock images. There's already a runner there. Let's just type in running again and see what else we get. She looks happier. Let's use her. And let's see, what else can we do? Perhaps we're going to add in another image for a logo. Well, here's one that I previously uploaded before, so we'll just play around with that a bit and pretend that that logo fits right up there. My design creativity is exceeded only by my fitness ability. So anyway, I'm doing that just to show that it can be done. Please don't judge me on my design ability. Okay, so we get to that point, we'll save it. And for Derek, I'll, being I'm on your website, I will add a keyword in there so you make sure to not go through with it here. This is for demo purposes only. We've saved it. Now we're going to print it. Oh, get my mouse clicking in the right direction. And there we go. We have all of that information that was previously provided that we connected over here. We don't have to ask some of that. We know it's full color. We know the papers, and we know all that kind of all that information. So we give it a name. There's the pricing, all calculated by Odyssey. And we'll save those changes. Whoops, let me see. Let me complete that 3-hole drilling. Well, we wouldn't 3-hole drill this. Well, I suppose we could. Right now that's marked as required. That one might be a little bit of a work in progress. We might want to change that. We'll come back and check that out. And Trish, maybe you want to take a note of that. We'll kind of revisit that with Derek. That might be something we haven't hit on this order form here yet.
Yep, good point. Thanks, Dave.
And we'll go ahead and save those changes. Check out now, and I'll keep following this along, but at this point, this is your typical shopping cart experience. There are some options in here. All the shipping options are customizable. Same thing with the payment options. I will pay at pickup, and I already had this address here from before, but we'll go ahead and complete that order. Remember, I'm playing the role of the print buyer, and there it is. We just placed that order. The beautiful face of Tanda Evans, one of Derek's employees, has congratulated me on getting my order placed, so she will usher it through. That is, if she doesn't see the words "don't process," she would, but we've got that in place there. And then that's kind of what happens. So if we go back to Derek's installation of Odyssey and we take a look at the orders, there you go. Now we're getting back into some of the big things that were important to Odyssey. Now, if Derek was looking at this in his account, this alert bell would have rung up here, and that would have prompted him that there's a new order. I'm just going to it directly. We'll go in there, and there is our job ticket ready to go. Odyssey's just saved all of that double entry time, and that's what Design Edit is all about. It's a big deal. You know, there's a lot of moving parts here. Tried to condense them down into kind of a shorter story, but you've got Odyssey running the MIS, and you've got Odyssey handling the scheduling and the job tickets. You've got the website going right in front of your customer so that they can buy printing using Design Edit. There's a lot of moving parts, and they all come together to flow together just like that.
Boy, Dave, that's some good stuff. I appreciate that because there's even some things in there that I took notes of. So good stuff for those that maybe haven't gotten deep into design edit yet. So
And
great.
you just said something else that I had a note to write this down too. I would have totally overlooked it. Kind of one of those things, and it was so interesting. You know, I'm not in the front lines with the customer care team as much as I used to be, but even this week I had an opportunity from two separate people to show a little bit of something in design edit. And let me just show that to you here too, because at least in one of those cases, the printer wanted to make a change on behalf of the customer. There's a little bit more to the story. I might touch on that as we go here too, but they wanted to make a change for the customer. I don't know if it was a typo or whatever it was, but let me go back to that order. And I might stumble around here a bit. I have not got myself used to that. For this one, we're actually going to go back into the control center. Now, if you're familiar with the websites that we provide, that's what this is. If you're not familiar with our websites, this might look a little bit new. And so there's kind of two things that are blending. So we're kind of bringing more of what is on the website side into Odyssey to unify that experience. For now, though, we do need to make this hop over here onto the website's control center. And I want to go directly to that file that customer created. Remember, I created it over here from the print buyer's perspective. Now I'm looking at it in the control center from the perspective of a printer. And if you look at this little gray icon here, it says Edit, Design, Edit. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it's kind of a big deal. Now, it's really exactly what we just looked at, but again, keep in mind, I'm looking at it from your perspective as a printer and not that perspective as a print buyer. Now, it takes a little bit longer to come up here in Safari. Chrome is kind of the preferred browser for design edit. Safari works, just takes just a little bit longer sometimes. But here's the point I wanted to make is you can go in and make those changes. The exact same tools, you can make those changes. And that's important. Now, also keep in mind, it's also important that you as the printer and your print buying customer are on the same page with these changes so that there's no surprises, because Design Edit really is built to be a self-serve tool. And so that's the important point I wanted to make. And along with that point, and now here's where I get up on my soapbox a little bit. One of the customers that I was talking with about Design Edit, she just didn't quite have that trust level in Design Edit yet. And well, honestly, that's a story for another time. But honestly, I think she could have helped herself out a little bit more. And what had happened is she was questioning the design skills, I suppose, of the person that was creating that document. But keep in mind, it's a whole different era of buying printing. And what the customer sees on the screen is what they expect to see as that printed product. It's kind of what I said earlier, WYSIWYP. What you see is what you print. And that communication probably needs to happen sometimes, but in this case, if she went in and kind of second guessed the customer, she's maybe not taking advantage of all that efficiency that's there. And so this is a thought that's been rolling around in my brain. It's a quote that I've used a few times. I kind of apply it here too, and that's the role that we want to play for you. Is we want to lead you to success, not follow you to failure. Some kind of strong words there, but just kind of a challenge to maybe rethinking how you're approaching doing business online. And if you're not doing it the way that successful online printers are, well, we want to help you position for success. We don't want to say, oh, good job, try it on your own and follow you to failure. We want to be there to help lead you to success, and that's what that's all about.
Yeah, Dave, that's a really good quote or saying, because I try to apply that every day, and we're always here for our customers no matter what it is. And if we at customer care aren't sure of the answer right away, then we'll ask our developers or ask our website developers and that. So I love that quote, and I try to follow that every day so that we can help all our customers. So thank you, Dave. So with that, I would say I just thank everybody to join us on this third edition of This Week in Odyssey. And I would say remember to stick around until the end for a quick survey. And we do appreciate your feedback on these. So thank you.
Thanks for joining us for This Week in Odyssey. For those watching live, stick around for a 2-question survey. Join us in 2 weeks for the next edition of This Week in Odyssey. To learn more about Odyssey, please go to mi4p.com/mis. That's mi4p.com/mis. On behalf of the whole team at Marketing Ideas for Printers, thanks for joining us.